This video is named How to Baptize a Non-Believer Catholic and How to Say Goodbye. Um, the story begins actually when my dad was diagnosed with cancer, and my mother, being a nurse, knew what that meant. They'd given him 6 months to a year to live, and she kind of went into a panic, which I thought it was just because she was going to lose her husband of 25 years, but there was a lot more involved. Um, so as time went by and my dad got sicker and sicker, my mom finally asked the big question, Jim, where do you want to be buried at? And my dad said, just ship me back to Georgia. There's a family plot back there, and just put me there. See, Dad didn't believe in God, heaven, any of that. And Mom, being a converted Catholic and very devoted Catholic, wanted something different. They had had a foster child named Melvin that they paid for his funeral when he passed away from cancer, because their family obviously didn't have the money, and he was buried at Queen of Heaven Cemetery in Lafayette, and that's where my mom kind of wanted my dad to go. So she proceeded to tell him she wasn't going to ship him back to Georgia. If he wanted to be buried back there, he better start walking now. And my dad kind of chuckled, and my mom said, I'd really like for you to be buried out there where Mel's at. And, you know, they bury adults on top of each other. We could buy one plot, and you'd go first, and then I'd go later on top of you. And that would save Margaret any difficult decisions on where to put me at. And so my dad said, I don't have a problem with that. I don't really care. And my mom said, well, there is one little hang-up. And my dad said, what's that? You have to be Catholic to be buried there. And my dad said, okay, Ellen, I'm not Catholic. You know how I feel about that. You know, it's not going to happen. And my mom said, well, I believe that's the only way you can be buried at Queen of Heaven is, you know, all you have to do is be baptized Catholic, Jim. I don't see what the problem is. And my dad said, I see a lot of problems in it. I don't believe in that crap. You've been trying to convert me. You're pushing your daughter into this. You're not, it's not going to work with me. It's just not. So drop the subject. So my mom was wise enough, and she did. Well, then some more time went by, and my dad became very, very ill, and he was at home at the time, and my mother made the decision. He wasn't very conscious. He wasn't awake, and so she had him taken back up to the VA hospital. And of course, the doctors didn't give him much hope that night. They came into the room and talked to my mother and I, and of course I didn't understand a lot of it, but my mom, being a nurse, knew exactly what they were saying. They really didn't expect him to pull out of it. They said he was in a semi-conscious state, that he probably didn't even know we were there, and, you know, da-da-da-da-da. So they left the room, and my mother looked over and said, you do know what that means, Margaret? And I said, yeah. And so my mom said, well, you stay here with your dad. I need to go make a phone call. I said, okay. So she left, and she came back a short time later, and never mentioned who she called. So about a half an hour later, there's a knock on the door, and my mother answers the door, and in comes the youngest looking priest I'd ever seen. He had this baby round face. Now, mind you, I hadn't been attending Mass at St. Catherine's much. My mom, of course, that was a different story. She was there all the time. They knew her by first name. And anyway, he said his little piece with Mom, and my mom thanked him for being there, and he told my mom, Helen, it's an honor. And then he pulled out his tools of the trade. He had some holy water and some oils, and he laid them next to my dad on the bed, and he put the shaw, whatever they call it, around him. And my mom's standing next to him, and she's praying, and he starts praying over my father. And I'm watching this thinking, thank God my dad's not awake. So then it came time to do the actual baptism. So he gets this little plastic container. It had a cross on it, and took the lid off, and he takes a towel and he starts to pour this holy water over my dad's forehead. Well, guess what? Dad woke up, sat straight up in bed, and said, who the hell are you? This poor priest never said a word except, Amen. God bless. Picked up his tools of the trade and out the door he went. And my dad steam was coming out of his ears, his nose. He was pissed. He looked over at my mom and he said, Helen, you did not have me baptized, did you? And she said, what does it matter? You don't believe in this anyway. And, you're very ill. And it's already a done deal, Jim. Don't even worry about it. He said, leave my room. Leave my room. I want a divorce. So I'm sitting there. And my mom says, "So you're being ridiculous, Jim." He said, "I mean it, Helen. Get out of my room. 25 years I've allowed you to control me. Greenhouse. You had to have everything green because it was your favorite color. Mapped out vacation trips," which I'll have to look for that story. And he said, I put up with it and put up with it and put up with this is the bottom line. I told you I didn't want this. I told you I didn't believe in this. And because this is what Helen wants, Helen gets. Get out of my room. I want a lawyer. So she picked up her purse and she left, and I'm sitting there left with the mess. Seems to me like my mom did that to me a lot because me and my dad were so close. And my dad looked over at me and said, I can't believe she just did that. And I said, Dad, it's just the way Mom believes. It's not a big deal. He said, oh, yes, it is. Helen's done this to me for 25 years, Margaret Lynn. I'm done. I want you to get me a lawyer. I want a divorce. I said, Dad, you're very sick. I don't care. I want a divorce. You are going to go home and you are going to find me an attorney and you're going to come back up here and I'm getting a divorce. I'm divorcing that woman. I'm done. I said, Dad, you're very ill. I don't care. Leave now and get me an attorney. So I got my purse and I left. And of course I went straight over to my mom's house. And there she is sitting on the couch crocheting like nothing had happened. And I said, oh my God, Mom, Dad's really pissed. She said, he'll get over it. I said, no, I don't think he's going to get over it, Mom. He wants me to get him an attorney. He wants a divorce. He's pissed. I was crocheting away. He'll get over it, Margaret Lynn. Just give him the night. Go back up tomorrow morning. He'll be fine. I said, Mom, he's not fine. I think that saved him from this episode of illness. It gave him the strength to move on just because he's pissed. She said, Margaret, trust me. I've been married to the man for 25 years. I know him very well. He'll get over it. Go up in the morning. He'll be fine. So the next morning, after a very restless night's sleep, I head back up to the VA hospital and I walk in and there sits Dad eating his breakfast. Just as healthy as ever, as he could be at that point. I said, hi, Dad, you're looking pretty good. He said, yeah, I'm feeling really good. Did you find me an attorney? I said, Dad, now you know damn well you don't want me to get you an attorney. Margaret Lynn, I told you to find me an attorney, and why didn't you? I said, Dad, it's silly. He said, no, it isn't. I'm done. I'm done with that woman. She's crazy. I told her I didn't want this, and what did she do? She did it anyway. Margaret, get me an attorney. I said, Dad, you're sick. You're not even going to live long enough to get a divorce final. He said, I don't care. I don't care. I'm making a final statement, you could say. I'm going out with a bang. I'm done. Get out of here until you get me an attorney. I said, Dad, seriously? He said, I mean it. Go find me an attorney. I'm getting a divorce. So I picked up my purse. I didn't know what else to do, and I left. I thought, oh my God, all the way to my mother's house, I'm thinking, this is very serious. He's really pissed. So I get to my mom's house, and of course she had foster kids at the time, and Todd, that they had just adopted, and I came in, and she was pretty busy, and I said, hey Mom, Dad's still really mad. She said, yeah, I called up to the hospital and he refused to talk to me. She said, he'll get over it though. He'll be fine. He's a lot better. He's probably be able to come home tomorrow. I said, Mom, he doesn't want to come home. He wants a divorce. She said, he'll get over it. Trust me, he'll get over it. And I said, Mom, he's really pissed. She said, look, your father and I have been married for 25 years. I know him. And yeah, he's a little pissed because I kind of stepped over the line. I will admit that, but I had to do what I had to do. Your father's dying. I don't know what part of that you don't understand. And I said, but Mom, he didn't want to be baptized. She said, well, he'll get over it. So you go up this afternoon. He'll probably be done over it by then, and then you know, come back over, and I'll go up. You can watch the kids. I said, okay. So I left out of there, and I thought, I'm going to go get my foster sister, Mary, and my dad loves her to death. See if maybe she can help me through this. I just knew my dad wasn't going to change his mind that easily. And so I went and got Marion, and I'm telling her about it on the way up to the VA hospital, and she's laughing. She said, oh, God, I could just see your mom and your dad. She said, this is funny, actually. I said, Marion, it's really not. He's dead serious. You're going to see. He's dead serious. He wants a divorce. Marion said, I'll bet he is pissed. You know how he feels. He sent us church hopping when he thought your mom was pushing the Catholic thing down your throat too much. Remember that? I said, yeah, we hit all the churches in town. Yeah. She said, remember the Holy Roller Church? We went back 2 weekends in a row because they had the best show. I started laughing. I said, yeah, I guess I do take after my dad a lot. So anyway, we get back up to the VA hospital. My dad's sitting there watching TV, and I walk in, and he said, so did you find me an attorney? And I said, no. And he said, Margaret Lynn, have you even looked for an attorney for me? I asked you to do this one little thing for me, and I've never really asked you to do much. I've spoiled you rotten, really haven't asked much of you. This one is not much. All you have to do is look up an attorney. I'm stuck in this hospital. I can't do it myself. I said, Dad, there's no way you want an attorney. You'll be dead before the divorce is final. This is stupid. He said, I don't care. I'm done. I'm done with that woman. She's nuts. I'm done. He said, I didn't want to be baptized Catholic. He said, for God's sakes, I was baptized when I was a kid. Didn't believe in it then. Don't believe in it now. This is bullshit. He said, I want an attorney. I said, Dad, think of it this way. You love Mom, don't you? He said, of course I do. And he said, but that has nothing to do with her craziness. I'm not putting up with it. I said, but Dad, what does it matter? You say you don't believe in any of that, right? No, sure don't. He said, it's a bunch of hogwash. It's just a way to get your money. That's it. And I said, but Dad, seriously? What does it matter? If you don't believe, what does it matter? He said, it does matter. I told her not to do it. And I said, yeah, but it's already done. I mean, it's water underneath the bridge, as you used to tell me all the time. Don't worry, keep moving. I said, you need to keep moving. I said, I don't need you guys fighting. This is hard enough on me. He said, I'm sorry, Margaret Lynn, but I can't help it that your mother's crazy and has to have everything her way. I said, but Dad, this is really silly. And he said, yeah, it might be silly to you, but it really isn't silly to me. So that really pissed me off. I said, I understand that. And Marion said, you know, Jim, I know you love Helen a lot. I've spent a lot of time at your house. You guys are like parents to me. There's no way you're going to divorce Helen. And he sat there for a couple of minutes, and he said, Margaret Lynn, didn't your mother say that they bury you on top of each other out there at Queen of Heaven? I said, yeah. He said, well, I got an idea. Might solve this whole problem. I said, what's that? He said, you got to make me a promise. I said, okay, I can do that. What do you want me to promise you? He said, I want you to put a stake in my hand before they put me under. I said, what? He said, I want you to put a stake in my hand. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you know, a stake like in Dracula, movie? Stake in the heart. Okay, why? He said, so I can hit that bitch in the ass all through eternity. I said, Dad, how am I going to pull that one off? Really? Seriously? How am I going to do that? He says, I don't know. Make arrangements with the grave digger. I don't care how you do it, but I want a stake in my hand. I want something in my hand where I can hit her in the ass all through eternity. And I'll shut up about this Catholic thing and burying me in a Catholic cemetery and I have to be baptized. I won't say another word about it. I swear, Margaret, I swear. But you got to promise me that. So I thought to myself, well, it'll get him and her to quit fighting. I said, okay, Dad, I promise. He said, now I mean it, Margaret Lynn. He said, Marion, you're my witness. And Marion said, I heard you, Jim. We'll make sure it happens. And my dad said, okay. So me and Marion rushed over to my mom's house, and we tell my mom, hey, Dad's over it. But it was only because he made me make a promise. My mother said, a promise? I said, yeah. He told me that he wants me to put a stake in his hand. She said, a stake? What are you talking about? And I said, a stake. Something in his hand so he can hit you in the ass because he knows you're going to be on top of him. Hit you in the ass all through eternity. And she started laughing. She said, now that's something I can see your father asking you to do. So, would you tell him? And I said, I told him yes. And she said, how are you going to do that? I said, I haven't figured that one out yet. But I will. Marion and I will work on it. Marion said, yeah. You know, Mama Helen, I almost called her Aunt Helen, everybody else did, except Marion. Anyway, Marion said, Mama Helen, we'll make sure it happens. My mom said, well, make sure it doesn't look like a steak. And I said, okay. So, anyway, my dad gets worse, and he passes away. And my mother, the day that he passed away, being Irish, she believed that the dead came back and said goodbye within 3 days, so she was expecting his visit. So the whole family's at the house, and she asked me, she said, Margaret Lynn, would you please spend the night with me tonight? And I said, sure. She said, but you have to sleep with me. I said, why? And she goes, because your dad's going to come back, and I'm afraid. And I figure if we're both here, he could say goodbye to us both at the same time. All right. I don't know if I believe that, but okay. So everybody left, and Mom gets ready for bed, and she's in bed. I'm in the bathroom brushing my teeth, and the phone rings. So she answers it, and I hear her say, yep, uh-huh, okay, yep, all right, thanks. And she hung up. Well, I'm nosy. So I come back into the bedroom, turn out the light, and I get into bed, and I meant to say, who was that on the phone? And instead I said, who's that? And before I could finish the rest of it, she shot 5 feet up in the bed and said, where? We both started laughing. I said, Mom, I meant who's on the phone? She said, well, why did you say it that way? I said, I don't know, it came out weird. Anyway, so we giggled all night long. And then 2 days later, it was viewing time, and by then my girlfriend Barbara had called me and told me that she knew about the story of the stake in the hand, and her brother was in woodcraft. He was still going to high school, and he had offered to make a little wooden cross to go in my dad's hand, and that they would bring it and drop it off at Conley and Taylor. So I thought, well, there you go. He can stick her in the butt with a cross. That's kind of fitting for what the fight was over. So me and Marion and my mom, we go down to do the first viewing of my dad, and we're the only ones there. And we walk in, and Mr. Taylor said, somebody dropped off a cross, but I need to okay with you if you want to put the cross in his hand. And my mom said, yeah, he needs the cross. And so he said, well, I'll do that after you guys go in and view him. My mom said, okay, thank you. So we went in, and he's in this room, and lights are kind of dim, but there's a lit candle at the foot of his coffin and at the head of his coffin. And anyway, it was very subdued, you could say. So all 3 of us are standing there, and we're bawling and slinging snot across the room and crying. And my mom said, gee, he doesn't look too bad. And I said, yeah, he looks okay. And we're crying and crying. Then all of a sudden, all the lights went out. The only lights in the room was these 2 candles. So you could see my dad clearly because the 2 candles were right there in front of the coffin. And so all 3 of us are looking down at this, and it's kind of spooky. And my mother looks up and she said, Jim, turn those damn lights back on. And would you believe the lights came back on? My mom said, "There you go. He just said his goodbyes." My sister Marion looked at me, and I looked at my sister Marion, and I said, "She's been waiting days for that to happen." Then Mr. Taylor comes walking in and said, "I'm sorry, Mrs. Reese, but somebody hit a power pole out there, we hear, and that's why the lights went out. But we have a generator, so it kicked back on." And my mom said, "Right." It was actually my husband saying his goodbyes, and Mr. Taylor just kind of looked at her and walked out of the room. Me and Marion looked at each other, and we just shook our heads. So anyway, we had a very nice memorial for my father, and Father Dean's did a very good job of just talking and celebrating his life. It wasn't a Catholic thing, it was just, and he had known my dad. He'd been to our home several times for dinner and knew my mother very well. He actually baptized my mother. Um, so anyway, it was a nice service, and at the end of it, Father Deans made a comment to me and my mom that it was just such a lovely idea to have that cross in my dad's hand, and me and my mom kind of looked at each other and giggled. And about, oh, I'd say half a dozen people made comments about what a nice thought that was to have that cross. So at the end of the funeral, as we're heading out to the cemetery, my mother looks over at me and said, "Now, Margaret Lynn, you have to be fair about this." I said, "Fair about what?" She said, "You gave him a cross. I want one in my hand, too." So unfortunately, a little over a month went by, and my mother had a massive heart attack and passed away. And the same young man offered to do a smaller cross for my mom. So I've often thought when I went out there to visit the cemetery and have my moment of peace with them, that they're fighting those two crosses because they are buried on top of each other. So anyway, that's the story of how do you get a non-Catholic baptized Catholic and how you say goodbye. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope it helps somebody that may be going through grief right now. Grief's an odd thing. I think everybody deals with it in a different manner, and especially when you know somebody. I don't know if it's a blessing or if it's a curse when you know somebody is dying. We knew about my father for a whole year. I take it as it was a blessing because I said things to my father I probably would have never said if I hadn't have known. And with my mom, I didn't know. She died suddenly, and there was a lot of things I wish I could have said to her that I didn't say. So thanks for listening. If you have any comments, please make them at the bottom, and have a great day, and God bless.